little bit of a sales pitch, but not much. We were founded in 1900, so we're 126 years old. We're a fabric weaver. We make fabrics that are from anywhere from 40 inches to 135. And we make about 500,000 yards a week. In March of 2016, actually earlier in the year, I got a call from a friend of mine who said, I have this guy who has an idea that he wants to make a product from his cotton. Can you help him? I don't know. Those of you who are in our positions of sales and marketing, we get calls weekly from people who want to do something. They have an idea and they want to present it, and they're not quite sure how to do it. And in most cases, they have no idea what it takes to really put a product together and take it to market. So we have to disappoint a lot of people because what we do is very involved. We take a little bitty fiber, about 1 inch long, finer than your hair. We spin it into yarn. We weave it or knit it into cloth. We dye and finish it and make it beautiful, and you're able to make something with it. We like to use that expression. Our business is not rocket science. It's more complicated than that. At Hamrick Mills, we have a saying. We perform miracles every day. Special requests take a little longer. So anyway, who is this person that wants to make something out of his fabric? Where's the clicker? I need the clicker here. Let's talk a little bit about that. In this picture here, you see a family. That gentleman in the middle, his name is Mark Yeager. Mark grew up on a cotton farm. In 1983, he took over 5,000 acres of a cotton farm, where he grows about 6,000 bales of cotton a year. Think about that for a second. And an average bale weighs anywhere from 480 to 500 pounds each. That's nearly 3 million pounds of cotton. But Mark was getting tired. What he was tired of, I have to look at my notes. He got tired because for years, he started this in 1983. And along about 1997, he was thinking, man, I've been working my rear end off, growing cotton, and I'm selling it for peanuts. A lot of you may know, or you may not, that the cotton market is controlled by the cotton futures. That's where the pricing comes from. So when the merchants buy the farmer's cotton, they're paying basically what the futures price is, plus a little bit. But it's difficult for them to make money. He wanted more. He wanted more for himself. He wanted more for his family. He wanted more out of his cotton. So his first decision was to build a gin. So he built a gin on his cotton farm so that he could gin his cotton and other regional farmers' cotton as well. So that was okay and fairly satisfying for a while, but it wasn't enough. He wanted more. He wanted more. I'm trying to see here. To Mark's right, you see a young lady standing there with her husband and 3 children. That's Anna. All 5 foot nothing of her. But she is a dynamo. Anna went to Auburn University and majored in graphic arts. She got her degree, moved immediately to New York City, and got her job with a marketing and advertising firm, and was doing very well. As a matter of fact, she was doing so well that within the first 2 years of being in New York, she was listed in the New Yorker magazine as a person to watch. She was making an impact, and she was enjoying herself. It was great. But something was missing. Wasn't quite right. Just missing something. I can see it in your eyes. I know what you're thinking, David. It was a boy. Back at Auburn University, she met this fellow named Nick. They fell in love. She was in New York. He was in Nashville, Tennessee, because he was a pharmacist working for the Vanderbilt hospital system. It wasn't quite right in New York. So in 2015, Anna left New York City, moved back to Nashville, Tennessee, got married, and started her family. Thanksgiving Day, 2015. She's back home with her mom and dad, Mark and Cassandra, her brothers and their wives, and her husband Nick. And they're sitting around the dinner table. And Mark says, you know what? I sent a picture on Instagram from the cotton gin of a bale of cotton. And my sister called me up and said, boy, I'd love to have a set of sheets made out of that cotton. And he looked at Anna and said, Anna, can you help me make sheets? The seed had been planted, it had germinated, and it was about to come to fruition. So early in 2016, when I got this call, these were the people that showed up. From an idea to the business. They came to our plant, they sat in our conference room, and Mark said, I want to make sheets out of my cotton. How do I do it? I said, well, that's where the supply chain comes in. Mark said, well, I don't want to start little. He's not a start little kind of guy. He's one of those guys that's go big or go home. So who do we call? But the largest yarn spinner in the world, Parkdale Mills. Well, as manufacturers, I think we all get that sense that when we're trying to make something or trying to make a product for somebody, we like to do it on a large scale. We don't like to do anything small. You know, minimums for us in a weaving facility, typically for us, from a start from scratch situation, typically we need 50,000 yards to make it worthwhile to go through the entire system. Parkdale Mills spending 20 million pounds of cotton a week. We want to make a set of sheets. How are we going to do that? So I called up my old buddy Andy Long. Parkdale at that point in time was just starting a new division called Spun Lab. Spun Lab was dedicated to making small lots of yarn. Timing is everything. So we called Parkdale. Parkdale said, yeah, we can do that. We'll take your cotton, we'll spin yarn just for you, and then we'll sell it back to Hamrick Mills and let them make fabric with it. Well, what were we gonna make? Sheets are sheets, right? We all know that's not the truth. Thread count, weight, how it feels, what it's made of, all of those things come into play. But Anna, because she's the marketing genius, wanted to make an heirloom. What's an heirloom? Anybody know the definition? I had to look it up. I wasn't quite sure. An heirloom is something that is valuable, sentimental, something you want to pass down from generation to generation that will last a long time and make an impact. Now comes a Sunday school class. After that Thanksgiving dinner, and they decided they wanted to make sheets, they had to decide what kind of sheet they wanted to make. So Mark's a fairly religious guy. They're a religious family. They go to church most every Sunday, Sunday school. So Mark was in Sunday school after that Thanksgiving, and he said to his Sunday school class, we decided we want to make sheets out of our cotton. Anybody here got an idea of what they'd like to have for a sheet? One of his Sunday school class ladies said, I know. I have a set of sheets in my hope chest, in my bedroom, that I got from my great grandmother. And I love them. They're a great weight, they're breathable, they're soft, they're great. I would like something like that if you're gonna make a sheet. That's where the heirloom sheet came from. They brought it to us, and when you analyze a cloth, all of you cloth people, you lint heads, you know this, you have to tear it apart. You have to basically destroy it to figure out exactly how it was made. So we did. We took the sample, we analyzed it and came up with a design and a construction, but Anna wanted to manipulate a little bit. So she said, how can I make it do this and that and make it feel this way and that way? Well, my degree is in textile engineering, so I know a little bit about designing a fabric. So we lightened it up a little bit in the yarn size, and we increased the construction just a little bit, and we came up with basically the Redland cotton sheet. At this point, I think you've probably heard me talking about this long enough. So I'm gonna let Anna and Mark do some talking.
We grow cotton in the rich red earth of North Alabama, and we want our products to be made here in the USA, from the seed in the ground to the final stitch.
We all believe in the mission of bringing textile manufacturing back to America.
Redland Cotton started as an idea in 2015 of taking our cotton and making a product.
My dad was just really frustrated in seeing the cotton he was growing and not being able to sell it for the value that it really could bring. Our first product were bed sheets. When we started working with our manufacturing partners in the Carolinas, they suggested that we find a bed sheet to replicate.
We wanted to make a sheet that was unique. I remember my grandmother's sheets growing up. I remember sleeping on them when I was a kid, and they were incredibly luxurious.
Once you slept in them a couple of nights and you really kind of broke them in, that they were the softest, best sheets. They just get better with time. Whether it's a bath towel, a quilt, or a blanket, we're working hard to create an heirloom quality luxury brand that tells the story of America's heartland.
You can't get any purer of a product than what we make, from the cotton we grow here in Alabama to putting it on your bed.
Our products are made up and down the East Coast, and making an American-made product, unfortunately, is hard, but it is so worth it.
The most important thing in buying an American-made product is the real-life impact up and down the supply chain.
It's crucial that we step in and prove that you can still make great textiles here in America. We think it's worth it to bring you a 100% farm-to-home product.
I still get a little choked up when I see that. So we set about building a supply chain, and it's been an interesting experience. And we'll show you some slides going forward as Lindsay and I have a conversation here on stage. But I think it's notable that at this point in time, we're 10 years into this now, and at this point in time, a major retailer, who might be in the room, is in conversation with Redland now about offering them floor space in their department stores.
That's awesome, Joe. Thank you for sharing the story. I apologize for my voice. I've been yelling at everybody all night. I think, before we unpack kind of what it took within the supply chain, the one thing I did want to kind of emphasize is simply this shows the power of the network for AAPN. I mean, he referenced 3 different people within the room that he called up and asked questions. And so he was able to make this happen for Mark and Anna just from talking to people within the room that he's had connections with for over 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, I don't know, 30 years.
Long time.
Long time. So, again, I just want to emphasize that, Jill says it all the time, your net worth is your network, and I think this shows that because Chim's net worth is probably going up based on the fact that he was able to help Redland Cotton out and partner with a major retailer that at some point will put this on their floor. It's an incredible story. So for me, I just want to unpack kind of like how the idea became real. At what point did it become clear that this wasn't just about making sheets? It wasn't just a cool idea. It was actually about building an entire supply chain from scratch.
Well, early on, after the conversation with Parkdale and getting the yarn together, we have to weave the cloth. I've heard this mentioned so many times in this last couple of days with the presentations, and we talk about it all the time. Trust, collaboration, relationships, communicating, those type things all come into play, and we have to be cognizant of them. As Anna said, building a supply chain in the United States or in the region, and one of the things I was going to mention is it's a little off base for our particular group because it's not about apparel per se, but building supply chains, whether it's in the region or here, is all based on trust and relationships and what you know and who you know and what they know. So it sort of developed as we went along. But as we all know in manufacturing, and I'm sorry I may be getting off topic here, each process has to have a quality product. The yarn that we got from Parkdale, we had to be able to weave it. And weaving is not a straight technical type of exercise. There's an art to it. And if the product coming in, if the yarn is not sufficient quality to support the weaving program, we would fail. If our fabric, after we make it, could not be dyed and finished in the proper way to create a product, we would fail. And so on and so forth. And if you think about it, we're making sheets. To make a simple queen size bed set, it takes 8 yards of cloth that's 112 inches wide. If you have a defect or a hole or a problem in the dead center of that sheet, what do you do with it? That's expensive waste. So everything has to fit together properly. And you have to trust your suppliers. We have to trust Parkdale trust us to give them the information they need to make sure that their product to us is correct.
For sure. So, just to be totally transparent, you kind of touched on it, if the yarn's not right, if you have a manufacturing defect or whatever it might be, when you started piecing this together, what was actually the first major operational hurdle that you ran into? Don't say yarn because Andy's in the room.
I won't throw Andy under the bus. I'll throw Dan. Getting it, the yarn wasn't the problem, but getting it made initially was the biggest obstacle. In weaving we go through, and those of you who have been to the Carolina Mill Tour and have come to our facility, we go through a number of different steps in order to create a beam, a warp beam, to make the cloth. And when you're working in small numbers initially, that was probably the biggest, most difficult thing, was getting it from yarn form into an actual weaving machine and getting it started so we can see what it was going to look like.
So it was probably easier to piece together the network than it was from an operational perspective. Is that fair to say?
That is fair to say.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Let's go into the next slide because I think I want to talk about, this is the work, right? This is everything that went into it. So people hear made in the USA all the time. They say it all the time. But what does it actually mean operationally with this product?
Consistency is key. Quality, as we mentioned, from yarn forward is key. And it takes a constant amount of attention to detail to keep it operational and moving forward. One thing about this, you can set up a supply chain, but supply chains are very fragile. And if any one link in that supply chain falters or is weak, I think Rick mentioned this yesterday, you're only as strong as your weakest link. And sometimes the links fall out. They just disappear. for one reason or another, and we've had that experience during the course of this process. A couple of the original supply chain members have ceased operations, and now we're moving and have had to move to find people to replace them.
Got it.
And it's not, you know, they're not standing in line. We have to find them and see who's willing and able to commit.
Yeah, I think this touches on like not just the not just the technical issues that you can run into, but also operational. We've seen a lot of consolidation within the industry, a lot of closures, especially in the United States. So when you look at it, the proximity and the relationships matter. Why did it matter so much within this one program?
Well, in this one program, that mattered tremendously because Anna and Mark wanted it that way. They were dead set on USA, made in USA, and they wanted everything within close proximity to Moulton, Alabama, which is north central Alabama. So they wanted visibility nearby that they could go visit easily whenever they wanted to or needed to.
Got it. Will you click to the next slide? So, you know, a lot of the story comes down to craftsmanship and coordination. What does it take to preserve this type of capability in the U.S. specifically today?
Dedication and commitment by the people that are involved. We have to continue to keep our eyes on the ball and move things forward as best we can. You know, technology is going to play a part. In this particular situation, as the business has grown, and I'll move forward here a little bit. There you can see some of the sales orders and the number of orders have increased. We've had to increase production. So we actually invested in 8 new weaving machines that brought in from Japan, specifically dedicated to Redland cotton, so that we could maintain a level of supply that would support their business growth.
When we talk about consolidation in the industry and all the closures that are happening, the fact that you just bought 8 new machines is kind of crazy.
There are those that would say that.
So as we talk about kind of how it moved to scale, at what point did you realize that this had moved beyond basically just a compelling story and more about a scalable business that you needed to actually invest in?
It became clear fairly early in the process. We were probably 2 or 3 years in, and when we started, and my wife would say I'm a little bit of a hoarder. Not about material things so much, but I hoard emails. Yeah, so in my folder here that I have on the podium, I have the original email and the original purchase order from Anna and Mark. And the first order, which was unusual for a startup, was for 20,000 yards of this cloth. And today we're making 12,000 yards a week.
Wow. That's awesome. So, you mentioned investment.
I love when you do that, Bob.
And you're not a hoarder, you're sentimental.
Okay.
For the record.
Okay.
When we look at it, what role did investing, you went from, what did you say, 12,000 yards a week?
We went from an initial order of 20,000 total yards, which is what contributed, to their orders for the holiday season in that first year. It took, from the time they visited us in March of 2016, we delivered the first yards of cloth in August.
Wow.
So it was pretty quick. Parkdale and Andy and Dan, the guys at Parkdale, made the yarn for us very quickly and got it to us, and we were able to get it in the machines and up and running. So we shipped the first 5,000 yards in August.
Okay.
And they were able to get that finished, and they had sheets available to sell for the Christmas season that first year. And then it just kept, as you can see by the scale, it just kept growing. And there was, I have to give kudos where they're due. Anna, as I said, all 5'0" of her. You've heard that expression that dynamite comes in small packages. She is lightning in a bottle.
I've met her. I've had Zoom calls with her, and you could feel the energy just through the Zoom call. She's incredible.
She is amazing, and she tells a good story. They've had national attention through Fox News, through various, as you can see there, the number of various journals and magazines and things that they've been involved with. And she's had all of this exposure, and it's just grown and grown.
So basically, you invested in it, in the infrastructure, you saw proof of concept, and then you guys kept investing in it.
Absolutely.
But through partnership with commitments from Redland Cotton.
That's correct.
Yeah. All right, so remember, commitments. That's the most important part.
Commitments.
So I'm going to ask you one last question, and then I want you to close it out, and then we'll ask the audience for Q&A. But basically, the thing I want to ask you is, what are you the most proud of in what's been built thus far with Redland Cotton?
I'm proud of being able to sustain that business and helping them to sustain that business. I'm proud of the relationships that we have. I've had relationships with Andy and Dan and Parkdale and with the dyers and finishers for years. But they've become closer, more cemented, and to put it in your words, closer is better, and we're stronger together. I'm very proud of the relationships that we developed with all of the supply chain and how they've supported us in helping this business move forward.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can see the relationships in the room, and it's really important that you're commenting on the fact that those relationships got tighter just based off of working together. Sometimes that's not really the case.
Always. We're like, we're married couples. We have our spats. But we work them out.
Well, Jim, I love this story. I know that this is not about apparel, but it is showing that relationships work, the network works, and you can actually make something in the United States, and maybe we'll move into apparel at some point. But I love the fact that these sheets are I have a set myself. They are delicious. They feel wonderful. Please, everybody, go out and buy them.
Redlandcotton.com. And speaking of apparel, and we can close out with this final slide. We have graduated beyond sheets, or I should say Redland Cotton has graduated beyond sheets. There's also loungewear, they do blankets now. There's a whole list of different products that they're offering. All of it made with cotton grown in the north central region of Alabama in the dark red soil. And that's why it's called Redland Cotton.
All right, well, let's give it up for Jim and his great story. Does Tony Inns, if you don't have a question?
Yeah, hi Jim, Tony with Dillard's. How are you?
Yes, Tony. I think I know you.
So just to bring it kind of, and we'll open up for more questions, bring it kind of full circle. Jim graciously opened his place up to myself and my team last August, and I brought 7 people from Dillard's on a 800-mile road trip around North and South Carolina, right? It was great. But walking through the mill, walking through Reading, turn the corner, and I'm like, wow, man, these looms are massive. What are you doing? Making bed sheets. For who? Redland Cotton. I said, I've seen the ads. Like, really? Can you connect me? So it was that moment where if I had not been in the mill, right? And shame on you for not saying something, right? But had I not been in the mill to see it, so we're walking that process through with Redland. And when you said and Anna is amazing, right? The dad is great. And the funniest thing, when you get on a Zoom call with them, dad is in the background, and like Anna's mom is behind the dad, so like the whole family is in the call. But they're making their blankets up in Maine. Right? I have a range of product in the store. I've tested it. The towels are amazing. But just, it's a really exciting story. And if you guys didn't guess, I'm a retailer. So very exciting to just be walking this with them. But like you mentioned, we did have a hiccup. So they, lost their printer. Right? So it is the, doing business here. There are some things, but from a price point standpoint, it works, and they'll be, at some point I'll let everyone know they will be on our floor, and it will be Redland Cotton. Probably some product exclusive to Dillard's, but very exciting about that.
Like a regular retailer, you let them do the hard work for 10 years and then you swooped in and started selling.
Yeah, as soon as it's ready to go, like, yeah, I'll be there to help you out. But very, product's amazing, but very excited to get
We
it.
may need your help to buy more machines.
Sure, maybe. Any questions?
Yes, David.
She's gonna ask you a hard one. Get ready.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mackenzie's been the stumper, so.
I would say you probably can't see me, so I'll just
Please don't ask me about AI.
I won't. I promise.
I'll step around and say.
So, I'm actually from Cotton Country. I'm from South Texas. So,
Okay.
just a quick question. You mentioned they have a gin on their land. Are they still ginning like all of their own cotton, like
Yes.
for all of this?
Yes,
Wow,
yes,
that's impressive.
it is.
I'm personally impressed by that. Also, good for them for not like getting beat up by the gins. Good for them, because everyone I know is like always dogging on the gin. They're like, oh, they took all my money.
Yeah, well,
Like, dude, why do I need them? You know, it's a whole ordeal. But and then like from a supply chain perspective, they gin it, they send it directly to Parkdale, and then it just keeps
that's
going.
correct. They gin the cotton there, and government graders, all the cotton grown in the United States obviously is graded by the government and given a class and scale. And Parkdale has very rigid requirements for the type of and grade of cotton that they're able to spin into the yarns that we use, for these sheets. So it's all done right there in their gin, and it's shipped directly to Parkdale, to their warehouses and spinning rooms.
Mackenzie, we'll have Tony send you on the Carolina Mill Tour, and then you can learn all about this.
I just need to do more work recruiting kids to come here. David had a question.
Dave?
Yeah, I love the story. I think Mark has started something that probably is going to grow some legs, and that's farmers becoming spinners and spinners becoming fabric makers. And they're creating. Do you see that same trend that farmers are trying to sell their cottons and be part of the supply chain and not just necessarily sell to the merchants? And I believe it requires brands and retailers, because we see that, right? We got Hill Spinning doing program spinning for every cotton farmer in the country in the South. And it's all because of a certain, they're starting their own t-shirt brand or whatever. But then you see other initiatives out of California, use my cotton because I want to create Carhartt and all these other brands. Is the cotton farmer the savior or part of the solution for bringing U.S. Textiles back?
It's interesting that you asked that question, and the answer is yes. I've gotten calls from probably since we started this program, and it got national attention, obviously. Since we started, I've probably heard from a half dozen different farmers from different parts of the country who want to do something similar. And my friends Alex and Ron at Contemporary, they can take cotton yarn and make t-shirt fabric out of it fairly easily. It's not as easy for us, to weave fabric. But most of them, they want to make something special. T-shirts just aren't special enough in most cases. But they all fall into that rut or pit, if you will, of not knowing exactly what they want to do or how they want to do it, and they don't have a developed idea. That was different with Mark and Anna. One of the slides that you saw there, they sold their first set of sheets from a drawing that Anna did by hand. She had an idea and a concept as to what it was going to be. It wasn't just an idea about maybe. It was, here's what I want, and here's how we're going to do it. So there's a difference. They don't know exactly what they want to do with their product, and then when they get into the wheels of it, I mean, as well as I do, it's like I said, it's not rocket science. It's more complicated. When they start getting into the meat of it, they lose a little steam. So we had one farmer in Tifton, Georgia, that actually did create some product. He was also making sheets, but he didn't brand it. He was making for somebody else or for another brand, and it just sort of lost its way, and it hasn't come back. But he's still there. I still hear from him occasionally.
Should we have cotton farmers in our meetings?
We've had a couple actually join over the past couple of
Yeah,
months.
well, that's happened. It's happened.
We've
And
got
it
them to
wouldn't-
come.
It certainly wouldn't hurt. But coming on the Carolina Mill Tour would be a good start, so they can see exactly what it takes to turn that cotton into something tangible.
That's a nice club.
So, Jim,
Hi,
where did
Rick.
Jim,
Oh, we can't take any more questions, we're done.
this isn't a question, this is a statement. These are comments.
Oh,
Then put it right down.
I have a disclaimer, by the way, but go ahead.
So, the non-question question is, with all this, I mean, wouldn't it have been easier for you just put this into some type of AI bot and then sort of, figure it all, figure out the engineering? You don't need to answer that.
Thank you. Unlike Anna, I want to sleep at night.
Comfortably. This is a great story. This really is a great story. And my comment or commentary is I think that this is what you have done and what you're talking about. We talked about yesterday when I had called out. I think he's out of the room, but I called out Hector and Target with regards to Interdeco. This should be a call to action to the network. We are the AAPN, and to me, the operative is the N. Okay, it is about the network, and we can sit here and we can have all the conversation we want. We can build the relationships and the friendships that we all have, but we need to be connecting these pieces of the puzzle. And all of us know people who are pieces of the puzzle, particularly on buy sites. So whether it is a startup or whether it is Dillard or Target or something else. And so the call to action is, it would be wonderful if, as we're sitting here next year, we're able to have a room full of not just all of us who are all friends and connected within the network of the supply chain, but also the folks on the other side, the retailers, the buyers, the brands, and what have you, to be able to then pull all of us together, Jim, just like you did for this, okay, to really build a stronger industry here in this country, as you've done, and in this hemisphere. So I think your success story and your case study, in my opinion, is a call to action to all of us in this room. So thank you.
So my call to action back to you is, if you have a success story like Jim, one of the things that Holly and I would like to do for AAPN is put them on our website so people can actually read about them and search them and find out about them, because we do a terrible job of PR. Awful. And I would like to make certain that we start telling these success stories about this hemisphere, because everyone knows so little about sourcing in the Western Hemisphere, and they think things like this cannot be done. And I think it's time for us to make certain that we start the PR engine for the AAPN and for this hemisphere. So my call to action to everyone in this room, if you have a success story that's even remotely close to this, send me an email and I'll set up a call with you and we will write it up and we will put it on our website, because that's the whole plan. So with that, Jim, any parting words?
Yeah, my disclaimer. Years ago, when I was in college, I took a public speaking course. As you can see, it didn't take, because I am not a public speaker. As I note, I took a course. I didn't say I became a public speaker. But they told us, what I remember specifically about that class was, tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. Well, I told you a lot of things, and I think you all heard it. But the bottom line to this story is, you can take an idea and turn it into something tangible and make it work. And when we all work together with the relationships and the trust that we have amongst ourselves in this room and outside of this room, you can do great things. It is a great story, and we're very proud of it, and we hope it continues to grow. But like you said, It's a call to action. We can all do this. So, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Jim.